Hello, artists, and art appreciators, and welcome to Art Tank, the Shark Tank, but for art. I've had a little bit of art block earlier this year, so I decided to unwind by just sitting down and coming up with ideas for a bit, and so I'm gonna pitch them to you like it's Shark Tank or something, and just tell you about all my ideas. This first concept is a line of Cyclops dolls with an emphasis on themes, sets, and fashions. These dolls are aimed at like a teen adult collector audience, kind of a BJD style thing, and an entry into the customizing world with interchangeable eyeballs, eyelids, and molded hair. They're inspired by Blythe dolls with their large customizable eyes, but just taken to the extreme, and also inspired by fantasy dolls like Novi Star's Aliens and Monster High. Each doll comes with an extra eye and eyelid, which would come inside an accessory item themed to them, which can be swapped with their first eyeball. The accessory doubles as storage of the original eye. The dolls themselves are pretty simple in design, with pear-shaped bodies and blunt feet, kind of like Na-Na-Na dolls, and minimal articulation for a focus on aesthetics over posing. I usually prefer posing over aesthetics, but I decided to try a different route this time. I was waffling back and forth on whether to make their faces have a nose and mouth in my original design, but I decided to just emphasize the single giant eye taking up the entire head. There's often a lot of emphasis on the mouth in like fashion doll type things, and I think some people struggle to connect with dolls that are mostly faceless, but I am fine with them not having much of a face and just one giant eye, so that's what I went with. I also usually draw my Cyclops designs without noses, so that's just how it is. The giant eyes are also just a bit inspired by, I guess, the current, sort of discourse about giant eyes in toys. This has been a discussion for a little while now about how every toy line seems to have bigger and bigger eyes. Like, if you look at big lines like Monster High, Rainbow High, they're far larger than Barbie, and now even Barbie has the Dream Besties line, which has big eyes. And then you have Beanie Boos, which have giant eyes, as opposed to the Beanie Babies, their original cousins. The Webkinz reboot, they have, big googly eyes. I mean, even the 2000s Littlest Pet Shops had bigger eyes. Even the My Little Ponies from the 2000s had bigger eyes. You know, Bratz kind of was at the forefront of bigger eyes in dolls, and has just kind of gotten more extreme since then. I'm pretty ambivalent regarding this discussion. I do prefer Beanie Babies to Beanie Boos. But some of the Beanie Boos are cute, even though they have giant eyes. And I don't know, variety is the spice of life, as they say. Inevitably, the trend will switch back. It's just kind of like how the Labubu toys and other vinyl face figures are literally just dolls like Monchichi from the 1970s and 80s for a modern art audience. It's happened before. People's reaction towards modern toy trends is kind of funny if you spend any time at all looking at vintage and antique toys. I really like this one website called christmas.musetechnical.com, which has catalogs of Sears and other store catalogs. These catalogs were once a way a huge amount of middle-class Americans would see new toys. And there were plenty of toys with big googly eyes back in the day. I mean, the Blythe doll is essentially synonymous with big eyes, and I even referenced her earlier. And that doll was originally designed in 1972. There's also the general trend of dolls having comically small eyes, which obviously nobody talks about nowadays, but, just as a point, Strawberry Shortcake, her eyes used to be, pretty small. But toys like Hello Kitty and Calico Critters have maintained popularity all this time with their beady little eyes, and they're still very popular now, even though supposedly everything has big eyes. Actually, Barbie had bigger eyes in the late 80s, sort of. I kind of prefer those Barbies. Her giant lashes remind me more of the Monster High era than any other era of Barbie. But also, pre-Barbie, dolls didn't have painted eyes as often, and the nicer quality ones would have inset eyes, which are naturally just a touch smaller than painted eyes because they require the space inside the head. So often dolls would have large eyes compared to their predecessors or actual humans, but they would have small eyes compared to the modern dolls with the big eyes, like the Rainbow High dolls. There's also just some growing pains with big-eyed dolls, like you can see in the 1990s Sailor Moon dolls, because a lot of them have very small eyes and look off-model from the anime. Big-eyed dolls are surprisingly difficult to sculpt, in my opinion, because their faces have to be incredibly flat and wide, and they usually look best, more so from the front. So I think style just kind of wasn't in until more recently, and it's just, I think, a natural progression of people trying different things and trying to stand out in the market. Anyways, as long as we're making eyes big or go home. So these Cyclops dolls are just a big eye. One big eye. The biggest eyes. They say you know when you have a good concept when you can come up with like more and more ideas that fit your prompt. Like if you can come up with a bunch of episodes for your TV show pitch, it's a good one. I definitely felt like that with this doll line. I had a lot of fun coming up with different sets for these dolls, and I think I could draw tiny items with giant eyes all day long, honestly. I'm going to be honest, clothing design is not like super my strong suit. I just love themes, and I like coming up with little themed ideas as thumbnails. That all being said, the Cyclops that I decided to flesh out in the end was probably the most self-indulgent, esoteric, me-specific idea that I've ever had. This is Willa, the Venus-themed Cyclops doll. Not the Venus de Milo, not the birth of Venus, not the planet, not even the goddess, although I took some inspiration from her later. No, this is inspired specifically by the Venus of Willendorf, a 30,000-year-old Paleolithic statue found in modern-day Austria. She is one of many Paleolithic so-called Venus figurines, which are named after the goddess Venus, but were made thousands of years before that goddess had that name. Nobody really knows what they were for. There's speculation, people say different things, but basically I just really love ancient art. The Venus of Willendorf, like most of those figurines, doesn't have a face, but I feel like that really fits the giant expressionless eyeball vibe. Her accessory is matched only in name. It's a Venus flytrap with a big eye, which I love. I also decided to make a second pass at the clothes, or perhaps a second outfit, that is based off of the goddess Venus and like Roman clothing. To me, this is a perfect concept, although I recognize that the Venus of Willendorf Cyclops doll is possibly only something that I'm interested in, but you never know. So that's my Cyclops doll pitch idea. Stay tuned for a little physical prototype of Venus at the end of the video, and on to the next one. This next toy idea is miniature cases in simple shapes with little cartoon-esque dioramas when you open them up, and cute little dinosaurs that live inside the tiny dioramas. This is, put simply, My Little Pony crossed with Polly Pocket, but dinosaurs. The dinosaurs have bright colors and markings shaped like stars, stripes, hearts, and so on. And they also have human hair and bows, or horse hair, depending on how you think about it, to really emphasize the anthropomorphization component. This is meant to be a playset where the dinosaurs are little people, and this is their world. And the playset would focus on natural areas, plants, and so on. And then they could have like little beds for the dinosaurs to sleep in. The playset is meant to be shaped like the footprint of a dinosaur, and have interactable elements like a little pterosaur that flaps its wings, and a river where the fish appear to move, and also ferns and other plants that can be decorating the area and like moved around. And you store the little decorations on a little bead chain attached to the case. Now, I might have said that the Cyclops doll was self-indulgent, but let me be honest, this entire exercise is kind of, and so is this. Ever since I saw the My Little Pony Cutesaurus, which is an actual My Little Pony toy from 1986, which is a dinosaur with hair, I wanted more. I actually painted this My Little Pony Triceratops in 2012, and of course one of my first art dolls on this channel was a baby Triceratops in 2022. He's sitting on top of my computer right now looking at me. You might know that my favorite dinosaurs are Triceratops, as well as the Triceratops relatives, the other Ceratopsidae. But of course I was a fan of The Land Before Time growing up, not to mention the bizarre and often forgotten dinosaur movie from the year 2000. So sauropods, aka the long-necked dinosaurs, are pretty much the most iconic dinosaurs to me. Oh, also Serendipity, the pink dinosaur dragon Loch Ness monster creature from the Stephen Cosgrove and Robin James books. I still have those books, by the way. The aforementioned media were my primary inspirations for these tiny dinos, but I have to mention some other dinosaur media that I know of that was probably subconsciously in the back of my mind. The first is Paleopines, and I think everyone who has heard of it will understand why. Paleopines is less an inspiration and more like someone snuck into my house and stole all the things in my brain and put them in a video game. Or maybe the creator is my long-lost parallel universe self or something. I've actually been following Paleopines since before the game was released, although I've still not played it because I haven't really been in the financial place to play games recently, or to buy like new ones. Some other dinosaur media that I found intriguing over the years are the Darlin Dinos, a 1990s series of mini colorful dinosaurs with brushable hair. I like the concept, but I'm not a big fan of the designs. They're aesthetically similar, but less pleasant than the Lady Lovelylocks dragons from 1987. I also found this adorable plush called a Phantosaur in a thrift store once. Actually, I found it twice, but in the same thrift store both times, many months apart. Who knows if it'll still be there when I go back to West Virginia. And while doing research for this video, I also found the Dino Snores and the Cave Kids, which are plush dino lines, with the latter also being dolls. And I found out the Diaper Baby Pets had a line of baby dinos. A pretty consistent theme that I've noticed across most of the dinosaur toy media I like is that they have a theme other than just being dinosaurs, or even just being stylized dinosaurs. I obviously prefer a softer, rounder, cuter aesthetic that preferentially lines up with younger kids and girls. And that usually doesn't center dinosaurs, so when dinosaurs or dinosaur-like animals are featured, it's as part of a larger gimmick, like the diaper babies or the fantasy dinosaurs. And I have not seen any dedicated dinosaur playsets in this aesthetic. There are a couple of Polly Pocket playsets with dinosaurs that I found. They're the newer ones, and I like the dinosaurs okay, but I don't really like the modern Polly Pockets face. I also don't like having cavemen with my dinosaurs, bit of a pet peeve. And I also have to mention the Mighty Max toys, aka Polly Pocket for boys, which had some dinosaur themed sets, but are in a completely different aesthetic. For clarity, obviously, I'm not saying girls and boys toys because only one category can play with them. I mean, I literally had one of those Mighty Max toys growing up, and I just used my mini, Polly Pocket or whatever with them. The separation of girls and boys toys into different marketing segments was really because 1980s advertisers realized splitting the market up this way made them more money. In fact, in the 1970s, there was a real push towards equalizing the genders during the second wave feminism era, and you don't really see the pinkification of the girls' aisle until, the later 80s and 90s. There are other aesthetic differences, though. The main one I've noticed is that boys' targeted toys are generally much busier, sort of with a lot of what I would call visual greebling. A lot of details and textures added for sort of visual clutter. Comparatively, the Polly Pocket playsets, in my opinion, make better use of blank and flat spaces, and the miniature details are very precise and specific objects. It's more of a preference thing, to each our own, but I mention this all because it's relevant to why you would want a specific playset that is dinosaurs aimed at girls, rather than recoloring what is considered a boys' playset. My preference for the playsets also reflects how I feel about dinosaur miniatures. I find soft, rounded designs more appealing in miniatures, which is why I prefer those simplified Polly Pockets of the 90s more than the detailed modern faces. That's not to say I would literally want all of these mini dinosaurs to be literally pastel or pink and purple, but I suppose I leaned on the extreme end of the spectrum in my example drawings in order to convey, the idea. I would want them to be all sorts of colors, including darker colors. One of the things I did notice while looking at the Mighty Max sets is that there were dinosaur-shaped play sets, and there are little dinosaurs in some of them, but the inside of the dino set is not really the inside of a dinosaur. I don't like the idea of using a toy animal as a playset. The Polly Pocket shaped animals don't appeal to me, because when I was a kid I preferred animal toys, so I would really want the animal toy to sort of be involved or relevant to play. I wouldn't want it to just be a playset. However, I did have an idea on how to incorporate a dinosaur-themed case, a dinosaur-shaped case with some mini dinos. And these ones are the carnivore dinosaurs, so you should know what to expect going in. It's not like the carnivore dinosaurs can live with the sauropods, even if the Land Before Time would have you believe otherwise. This to me shows the gendered marketing difference I was talking about before even better, because this set is dinosaur bones, but for girls. Finally, little girls can experience the joy of playing in viscera. Just kidding. I kept it very PG, kind of like The Lion King, with the elephant graveyard. I hope you liked that, and stay tuned for the end of the video because I made some little mini prototype dinosaurs out of clay. Before I go on to the last idea I'm excited about, I briefly wanted to talk about an idea that didn't work out. I just wanted to include this because not everything does work out. Brainstorming is hard, being creative is hard, and sometimes you need to step back when something isn't working, but why not show it anyways, just for fun. This idea was inspired a little bit by paper dolls, a little bit by the Flatsy dolls. The idea is a flat felt doll that can be used as a bookmark, but has a wire arm so it can be posed and used as a doll. And it also comes with a playset that's shaped like a little book and opens up into a little dollhouse. These aren't all totally original ideas. Obviously there are similar things out there, but I think putting them together in this specific way would make a really nice toy line. I really like the idea of using maybe open source fairy tales and books, making a Secret Garden themed one. But overall I really struggled to design or think about this because it's not super close to my aesthetic in terms of how I draw my ideas. It's also very Melissa and Doug core, trying to get kids to read. I do a little bit better with directly fantasy things. There are versions of this idea with paper dolls, but I really wanted to play with textures, felt, plastic, cardboard. I think that would be much more fun and interesting. I just had so much trouble visualizing what this would look like by drawing it that I kind of decided to move on to a different idea. Now, this idea is a little bit different because I didn't make it just for this video, so I'm going to walk you through how I came up with the idea, and then I'll make some new designs for the video. After my Littlest Pet Shop Blythe video, I started designing some of these Little People dolls, not to be confused with the brand Little People, which, yes, they look kind of similar because they're similar proportions, but just my own original line of Little People that was inspired by the Littlest Pet Shop dolls. As I was coming up with my own designs, I kind of stumbled upon the idea of this little gingerbread character. So from there, I started expanding my idea and thinking about how I could apply it a little more broadly and how I can make it. And I settled on the idea of these being a design your own character kit, like a gingerbread house, but with dolls. This is a lot like my Create a Cuties idea, which was more centered around fabric and dressing up the animals as carousel designs. But it also had puffy paint as a major focus. With both sets I was inspired by those paint kits you find in stores, which I've always found a little lacking because, well, one, usually the materials in them are not super high quality or they just use markers, but also the characters are generally plaster. That's not always the case, but often they're not things that are really easy to play with afterwards. There are also some dolls with stickers on them as decoration, which is fine, but the stickers feel very impermanent, they can just fall off. I do consider these little dolls, even though their only movement would be the head, and they don't have interchangeable clothes. I'm open to making some of them posable, maybe just simple arm and leg joints, but that would also risk damaging the decorations. And personally, at this small scale, I prefer a doll with sculpted on clothing, as long as it's interesting and well made, or well designed, rather. And actually 3D modeled the first doll with the dress and long hair, and I'm going to show it here in this next session, where I'm going to make some more designs. The biggest problem with this concept currently is that it's very narrow. Gingerbread and gingerbread houses are only popular during a certain time of year, and not with a general audience. Since they're connected to a holiday not everyone celebrates. So someone in my comments suggested maybe expanding to other holidays, other themes, and other cookies. So I first did a little mock-up of gingerbread versus other cookie types. My idea was for the cookie people to have a bit of texture to them, which would help them looking like cookies and not skin. Which is important because their clothing is skin colored, so that might look kind of weird if they're all kind of the same and just a smooth texture. For this video, I decided it would be fun to draw what different potential sets could be, starting with the gingerbread set, and making it a little bit more definitively themed with the stars and lights and specifically just the white puffy paint frosting. I liked the idea of a decorated toy like this because I think it's a little less pressure on the person making it. I think with painting a typical full character, normally customizing things, you have to get pretty even coverage on the paint for it to look good. But the idea of the icing is that they can just be sort of lines. And you can cover up any imperfections in the lines with candy or sprinkles or whatever. I also like having that textural component when you touch the puffy paint when it's dry because it dries in sort of a very rounded, smooth shape. And then also the doll can still kind of be played with because the paint is firmly attached or hopefully firmly attached once dry. I'd probably want it to use high quality puffy paint for attachment, not cheap kids paint. I want thick acrylic gloss gel medium or something. After the Christmas holidays, I decided to try out a Valentine's theme. And now I know not everyone celebrates this one either, but I really just want to do the white, red, and pink color scheme, to be honest. And I feel like at least that is sort of universal. And so is chocolates. This one comes with multiple colors of icing in pink, white, and brown for like chocolate, and tiny truffles that can be decorated, like chocolate truffles. I also included some decor like little ribbons and roses with wire for the characters to hold. I also included a yellow rose, which I believe is the color for friendship specifically, if you want a more Galentine's Day thing going on, platonic love. Now, the best and most fun part I had doing this is that I decided the Valentine's set wouldn't be complete with having unique animal characters. I haven't really decided how these doll sets would be theoretically assembled, but I was thinking that it would be like multiple dolls possible for each set of decor. So like the Christmas one could come with a doll, a reindeer, and a bunny, or maybe it could be 2 dolls and either a reindeer or a bunny. For the Valentine's Day one, I had 2 animal ideas, a swan or a bear. A swan is like a sort of traditional symbol of love and beauty, and then the bear is obviously like a stuffed bear that would be given as a gift for Valentine's Day. I think these are not to size with the dolls on this page, by the way. I'm not sure how big they would be, but it would be like, they'd be pretty big. And the swan would have to be pretty big so the neck doesn't snap. I did draw some example decorations for each of these, but they wouldn't be like instructions to follow. One of my things with this set is to give enough pieces that you can make something unique and not follow specific instructions. That's honestly like my pet peeve with like 75% of what people call craft kits nowadays. I think the key is to give people enough tools to create something unique without overwhelming them. Like a full set of paints isn't a craft kit because a craft kit should be curated in some way. That's the kit part. In order to encourage artistic creativity and exploration, you can show examples and instructions, but the kit should have enough materials so people can create with freedom. The last design is a birthday cake design, which was really fun to make and challenging to come up with because it's such a vast idea. I decided to go for a theme with primary colors that are just slightly darker than pastel and a little bit desaturated. The big thing here is that this one would be like proper fake whipped cream. It's also called faux whipped cream. I think this would be a super fun alternative to the puffy paint idea. The birthday theme needs a lot of variety, a whole bunch of types of sprinkles, and ABC sprinkles so you can spell out a name or something, very important. And of course, props like mini candles, party balloons on little wires, and party hats would go really well with it. Lastly, I wanted to make some little pet friends for this set, and I wanted one of them to be a horse, which I already drew before. For the second one, though, I decided to go with a turtle, because turtles are cool, and box turtle is a funny joke because it's like a birthday present in a box. And this one would definitely be a more intense set, like much more vibrant with all the colors. And I think it would be good to maybe put in like a paintbrush or a flat tip or spatula to make smoother sections of color. And of course, because this has primary colors, it lends itself to mixing to get the secondary colors, like for green, purple, and orange. I don't have the perfect confirmed name for this series yet, so let me know what you think of Ginger Buddies, which was my tentative early name. I did consider calling them Biscuit Buddies, because like, you know, in the UK, English biscuit means cookie, but as an American, biscuit just makes me think of something else, so I'm not sure what other cute dessert theme name I could use. Bonbon Buddies? Baked Buddies? No, not Baked Buddies. Brownie Buddies? I don't know. Something cutesy with like alliteration would be the ideal. So that's all for my cute little craft kit, guys. Overall, I think this would appeal to both kids and adults who like watching custom doll videos but are intimidated by the idea of painting fine details. Thank you to my Ko-fi supporters who get access to many of my 3D models completely for free, and you can find models just like this over there on Ko-fi, or you can also go to my Cults 3D where I sell individual 3D models. Like this guy. Doo -doo -doo. Boop, 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 boop. After all this brainstorming, I wanted to do something with my hands, so I began making little prototypes. This is my prototype of the Cyclops design idea. Obviously, I went with my little Venus doll, and she's just a little statue, all one piece, just to kind of give an idea of what I wanted to do with the face and like the eyes. body shape and I glued her clothes on, but I just thought this would be cute to kind of show the idea a little bit better. Also, I spent more time than I expected working on the hair. These little swirls were kind of hard to get perfect, so they're a little imperfect, but I think she's still cute. Also, I didn't have any false eyelashes, so I made that out of black nylon hair. If I were going to take this further, I would definitely 3D model and 3D print all of her separate pieces, and she would be quite a bit bigger. And her eye would be able to move. But I think this gives you a good idea of how I would want the Cyclops dolls to sort of look. These next prototypes are so little that I think I'm gonna have to zoom in. So these are my handmade mini dinosaurs made out of air dry clay. And I feel like they might not look like much, but it is very hard to make tiny, tiny things out of clay. And I am very proud of them. I love how I did their tiny little mouths, and I managed to paint them kind of shiny so that they do look more like actual plastic instead of just air dry clay. And I even did the hair, so you can see the little like lines in the hair, which I both carved and painted. So they're about as detailed as I could make a figure this small. If you didn't know, I actually have a whole collection of tiny figures. And I've just always really liked really small things, so sculpting like these tiny little guys was really fun for me, and I love how they like kind of match the size of thing that I collected always. I would love to 3D model and print them similarly to this, but if I print them off of my 3D printer, I think I could make the heads that little and make them actually move. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm supposed to say last but certainly not least, but this is kind of the simplest prototype. So these are little stickers, and basically I have a thermal printer, so I decided to print out these characters on these thermal stickers, basically because I didn't have time to 3D print the actual figure, and I didn't want to sculpt it because I already sculpted it in Blender, so that just felt a little redundant to do the hand sculpting. So yeah, instead I did the stickers in order to test out how to make myself this kind of raised texture. It didn't work super well on this particular set of stickers. The frosting sort of fell flat as it was drying, which is okay. I'm testing out different things. I'm testing out like heavy gel mediums in order to get a thick consistency so that I can make like custom colors in the future. A lot of people who do like texture painting, they use like custom mixes of different ingredients. And one I've also tested is cornstarch. So this is cornstarch and heavy gel and paint. And I didn't mix in the cornstarch well enough, but you can see that it like ended up pretty raised. It's actually very sharp. Anyway, so I'm just testing out different formulas, and this is my little prototype set. The beads are just beads, like they're normal beads, and they didn't come in colorful colors, so I did paint on top of them. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these stickers, or if they'll even stick well after I've put all this stuff on them. Anyways, I think they do look pretty cute together, even though they're kind of like test pieces. I mean, they're all test pieces, but yeah, they're cute prototype. But who knows? I mean, maybe people will just want to paint the 2D stickers. Like, would you be more interested in this as a 2D sticker than you would as a 3D character? Like, I suppose that would be a fun, like, coloring book type idea. So let me know what you think of my little prototypes here, and let me know which one's your favorite. I would really like to hear what people think of the ideas. I just come up with so many ideas, and I never know which to pursue and what kind of things people are interested in, which isn't the only reason I make art, but I do like making art that people like, as well as I have too many ideas to choose from. So usually when I ask people, it's just because I have so many ideas, I don't know where to go next. Was that too honest? Anyways, I hope you liked today's video, and see you in the next one. Bye!